Good morning. It is Saturday, March the 9th, about 6:20 a.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson bringing you a wind and weather forecast for the Charleston Ocean Racing Association spring course event this morning at 10 o'clock a.m. from the CYC starting line. We have some light wind to deal with today, and I'm going to go ahead and just quickly show you the home page for CORA. And if you look under Skipper's Information, Offshore Wind and Weather, you can find this forecast and others prior to this. We started Wednesday night, did an update Thursday, and then we're bringing it into this morning for the final. But you can check it out on the home page there for this and the larger races going forward. Let's take a quick look at the surface map. And one thing I've been talking about all week is this very tricky stationary boundary, which was poised to be to our south in earlier runs, but then lately here now it's been forecast to be to our north, which that's true. We're looking at radar and we can see that, but this is problematic because of its proximity to the area, and what it does is weakens winds. We were hoping that we would see a ridge build out here in the Atlantic and really bring the winds up from the south as this cold front races in, but the timing of this cold front has backed it up a few hours. It looks like the ridge is weak out here in the Atlantic, and it looks like the winds are going to stay lighter just below this boundary. So if this boundary were further north up here over North Carolina, we would have a more synoptic southerly flow, more conducive for getting up towards 10 knots. But it looks like this is going to be a light day overall, and I'm going to go into more detail about that. Quick look at our sea surface temperatures, which is another one of the factors. Our sea surface temperature is now right around 59 degrees. And so this is creating a stable environment. Out here offshore, where the gradient is stronger, the waters are warmer, and that's what's creating instability. And instability equals more wind. But when you have this kind of setup with a light southerly synoptic flow, or even south-southeast, then you get a very light overall wind along the coast. Now inside the harbor, a whole different thing. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center, it looks like any severe weather will be held off to our west today again. This little zone right here, I believe, goes into tonight. We'll start to see the areas, especially near Charleston. We may start to see some storming develop. But as far as today, we don't need to worry about this. This morning, we may see a few passing showers. In fact, let's take a quick look at radar, see what's going on. Now, our boundary is just to the north. It's cutting across the Grand Strand area, and so down below it and along it, we're seeing some of these showers. Now, I mentioned Wednesday night. Most of this would stay to our north, but we could see a passing shower. We can see some things breaking out here in Barnwell and moving down towards the area. So I would say we'd expect a passing isolated shower through about 9 o'clock a.m. and then most of that activity will stay to the north. If we get a little bit of sunshine, this front may lift a little further north, but it's really tough to tell right now because of the weakness of the ridge in the Atlantic. Looking at cloud cover, now right now we don't have a good imagery field with high resolution because the sun is not quite up yet, and we haven't caught any of the latest satellite imagery with light on it. But this is infrared imagery, and you can see the lower cloud cover here in these thicker plumes. But above that, we have mid to high level clouding, and that's going to be kind of a mix today, and it's going to keep the sunshine level a little bit down. And so we were hoping for skies to be a little bit clearer to show that sun, so we could get some more sea breeze assistance with these winds today. But it looks like the mid-level troughing and just the general troughing overall near this boundary and some of this prefrontal build is going to stay over the area. Would that help with some of the sea breeze circulation? Maybe. We might be able to get a knot or two out of it. But one thing we don't have to deal with is light wind with rain, so it doesn't look like rain will be that much of a problem. Taking a look at the HRR 3-kilometer, the HRR 3-kilometer radar simulation, most of the showers again this morning. You can see where the loop starts out right about now, where the highest chance for rain is going to be early and then lifting to the north and drying out by late morning. And then we don't have really much of a chance. I think late afternoon, maybe a spotty shower in off the ocean, but then that gets swept out immediately, and then the stronger chance comes at nighttime. Take a look at air temperatures. Looks like we're going to max out in the mid-70s inland. That's mainly over land. Over the water, over the immediate coast, harbor, and just offshore, probably looking in the mid-60s, maybe upper 60s. If this ambient air temperature goes up a little bit more, we may see upper 60s. But those cooler shelf waters are going to keep the temperatures down, especially with onshore flow. So that if that helps, at least it's going to be a little bit warm today. Let's go and look at the Euro winds. This is the 10-meter Euro, and it says 18Z. We go in UTC, so we're going to minus 5 hours at least until the time change, which is tonight, by the way, so don't forget to turn your clocks spring forward. But either way, 10-meter winds by the early afternoon. We're looking at very light winds south, possibly south-southwest at some point. But I tell you, the Euro is looking really iffy here with this weak ridge out. We're seeing a crease in the winds. This could signify a little bit of short waving or inconsistency in the wind field. So it's not really reading. This is a coarse resolution model, so it's pretty tough. It's showing a lot of discombobulation here offshore, but I think we'll see some winds a little bit more south-southeast, and that's reflecting in the NAM 3 kilometer, which is a higher resolution model, and this is the North American model here. And so we're going to look at winds over the Charleston area. Early on, we see this is 7 o'clock Eastern time, and I'm just going to go forward with the button, and you'll see the winds staying southwest, which they are right now. And then as we go in time, we see the winds start to back a little bit more southerly by 10 o'clock a.m. race time, and then they continue to back south and then ultimately south-southeast into this afternoon. And you can see that the winds with the NAM 3 are trying to line things up ahead of this cold front coming to south-southeast flow, and I think that's going to be the trend today for most of the models, is that the south-southeast flow is going to prevail, which that ultimately means lighter winds. If we had a more south or even south-southwest wind, we'd have a little bit of sea breeze coupling to help out there. But with this kind of setup and the proximity of the front being so close to us to the north, it's hard to get away from that. Let's take a look at sail flow. Looks like right now winds are southwest 4 to 6 knots overall, or south-southwest. They were a little bit more southwest inside the harbor a bit ago. And we can continue to see this for the next hour or two, and then we're going to see winds start to back a little more southerly. We have rattlesnake shoals out here, and so we're talking about a very light wind field through this zone. When we get inside the harbor, I'd say between Fort Moultrie and Morris Island, once you cross this line and the winds are coming across land in this area, you start to see this thermal mixing. Now that's due to land being warmer, and so the warm land radiating and the winds coming across it creates an instability factor inside the harbor. We talked about that Wednesday night, so I think the winds inside the harbor are going to be a little bit stronger coming back in, and that means by late morning into midday we're looking at 8 to 12 knots building to 9 to 13 knots. There is a possibility at some point maybe as you transition from early to mid-afternoon, we could see a nice little spike go up 11 to 15 in this area right here as these winds cut across land and mix down. So we have a little bit stronger wind aloft that mixes down to the surface with this radiation, this land radiation, and that may create a little bit stronger leg, but for the most intents and purposes it looks light along and just offshore. Here's the available models for the I'm going to use the Fort Sumter Front Range light. Let's blow this up a little bit. Select all models, run this again, see what consistency we're showing, and looks like for the most part, if we look at the model suite, the NAM 3, I look at this one a lot. This keeps it weak. However, the HER 3 kilometer brings winds up to near 10 knots by about 1 o'clock p.m. Now, this purple line is the Wolf Wharf, or the weather flow wharf model, and that one also brings it up close to 10 knots. So we have two high-resolution models bringing it up and one high-resolution model keeping it down. So it's pretty safe to say we're probably going to be stuck between the 3 and 7 knot mark. I just don't see us getting past that unless we get some sea breeze assistance, and then we may be able to push up towards 10 knots. It's going to be hard to get to 10 knots along and just offshore, just so you know. So if it happens, it would be bonus wind. Anything beyond that, it's definitely gifted wind, but I think inside the harbors we're going to see that stronger instability factor. Wave heights, general wave heights. Let me stop it where it is right here. Go back to, may have to start this whole thing over. Sometimes when I start this and then stop it, it just keeps going. So let's see, wave heights overall. Here is morning and then into the late morning hours. So it looks like wave heights, just like we said Wednesday night, are going to stick right between 1 to 2 feet from the south or south-southeast, and the period is going to be rather short, between 4 to 8 seconds. So not a lot of swell to deal with. You may have a little bit of chop as you come inside the harbor where the tide is going to be outgoing through the afternoon, and so you may have a little bit of chop with outgoing tide, wind kind of cross-cutting it over when you get over by Chutes Folly area and you're coming across the shipping channel, middle grounds, and those areas may start to get a little bit of a bump on it, but the swell heights overall will be lower, 1 to 2 feet. And I think that's going to do it for this forecast. Let me pull this over. This is my final forecast for the course. 10 o'clock a.m. start time, south-south-southeast, 3 to 7. Inside the harbor, south-southeast, 2 to 6 knots offshore. Early afternoon between 12 and 2, we're looking at 130 to 170 degree winds, 3 to 7 knots offshore with little potential for 5 to 9 knots. That's going to be based on sea breeze potential. If we get some sunshine, we get a little bit of that circulation going, we may get a little bump up I think 10 knots is going to be hard to get, but inside the harbor won't be so hard, 7 to 11. Mid to late afternoon, 2 to 5. We're looking at south-southeast winds offshore, 4 to 8. That's optimistic 4 to 8. And then south-south-southeast, 9 to 13 knots inside the harbor, and that's where that thermal mixing is occurring. We get into those low teens with gusting towards mid-teens. And winds could veer slightly more south-southwest with any sea breeze assistance there. So that's one thing we'll keep an eye on. Overall wave heights 1 to 2 feet from the south-southeast at 4 to 8 seconds. Chance of rain early 30%, 10% midday, 20% later. Very low chances for rain after this early morning batch of showers move through, if they make it here. High air temps today at harbor and offshore, 63 to 67 degrees. So good luck out there, everyone. I hope everyone the best. I hope we get a little bit more wind than what I'm forecasting for, but I have to kind of bite through right to the reality of it, as we're in a weak situation today. So best of luck to you out there, and we'll see how things go. I'll be talking to Andy Gohl and possibly seeing about backing the time up from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. and maybe that'll help start out with a little bit stronger winds. But until the next time, everyone take care. Thanks for watching.